Fighting out of the red corner with his trainer, Abel Sanchez, as a professional, also a perfect record. 35 fights, 35 victories, including 32 wins by knockout, including 22 consecutive KOs, and he has KO'd every opponent he's faced over the last 8 years. This Olympic medalist from Karaganda, Kazakhstan, is the reigning, defending, undefeated, universally recognized, true middleweight champion of the world, Gennady Golovkin, a.k.a. Triple
The punching power of Gennady Triple G Golovkin is the stuff of legends. He's knocked down and wobbled several opponents with his jab alone. But behind the power that once earned him a 23-fight knockout streak is a variety of technical skills that most pure boxers would envy. Unlike Canelo, Triple G doesn't use his boxing skills to switch between offensive and defensive styles. Golovkin instead uses his boxing and defensive tactics almost exclusively to pressure. In other words, every part of Golovkin's style is built around one thing: knocking out his opponent as quickly as possible. So today, we're going to look at the unique drills that help to make Triple G such a rare balance of precision and power. At first glance, Triple G's mitt work doesn't look like anything special, just very basic combinations repeated over and over. But on closer inspection, there are several unusual principles that tie them all together. Principles that are highly prevalent in all of Triple G's matches. And this makes sense, as drills are probably the best way to ingrain reactions in fighters and familiarize them with new concepts before testing them out in sparring, and eventually, in real fights. One such unusual tactic that Triple G uses is to start combinations off with his rear hand. This is dangerous and unusual. But the truth is, the human body is in a much better position to throw most power shots while squared up. And leading with the cross gets Triple G into this position faster than throwing the jab. This can be so surprising to Triple G's opponents that sometimes the cross can land a knockout all on its own. Because Triple G is so familiar with leading with his right, he can at times use it like a jab to probe and establish distance, setting up more powerful shots. At times, Golovkin will even switch to southpaw while doing this, meaning his follow-up left hits even harder. Of course, it should be noted that Triple G does have an insanely sharp, powerful jab, which is a big reason he's able to lead with his cross at all. Overall, Triple G's jab helps him to control the ring, set up harder shots, and wear down an opponent's reflexes to the point they can fall for these blatant attacks. Oftentimes, more advanced principles are only possible by attaining mastery of the basics. Another common thread that runs throughout all of Triple G's mitt work is his preference for practicing one-off, fully committed power shots with no setup. It's extremely dangerous to throw your entire weight into an attack like this, let alone without any kind of preparation. However, like an Olympic weightlifter, Triple G's main focus here is generating as much force as possible as quickly as possible. If Golovkin's opponent is shaken enough by the work he's already put in, then they'll simply shell up instead of trying to respond to a specific attack. Triple G can then go around their guard to target their sides, liver shots being a favorite of his. But beyond this, Triple G putting his entire body weight into his attack ensures that he can often break through an opponent's guard. Usually, when a boxer throws a punch, they must inevitably hold some power back to remain defensively responsible and ensure they have enough balance left to throw a follow-up punch. Triple G is living proof that it's occasionally beneficial to deviate from these standards. In other words, he goes all in. Once again, it's Triple G's ability to wear down opponents with tight jabs, constant feints, and skillful combinations that allow him to throw these highly telegraphed bombs. And in turn, if Triple G didn't occasionally show opponents his full power, his feints would not work near as well. The two work to enhance each other. Our next concept, and another big reason that Triple G can get away with these blatant haymakers, is that he practices punching from every angle imaginable with either hand. Notice here how Triple G's trainer adjusts the punch shield, covering all angles on the spectrum from a pure hook to a pure uppercut. And the same with the rear hand, from pure uppercut to pure overhand. This variety of angles makes it incredibly difficult for Triple G's competitors to adjust their guard in real time, whether he's throwing one-off power shots or combinations. The sheer amount of unorthodox combinations thrown by Triple G is hard enough to deal with already. Add on to that the fact that each punch could potentially come from an entirely unexpected angle, and you're in for a rough night. Like his rival Canelo, Triple G will often start his power punches by his hip, but then alter the path of the punch midway. This directional feint keeps the opponent guessing about his actual target. But Triple G does this to an even greater extent than Canelo, occasionally coming down over the top with his lead hand. This can be thought of as a vertical hook, or perhaps a lead overhand. Like the great Sugar Ray Robinson, Triple G will throw crisp, technical jabs to control the fight, and wild, looping haymakers that change direction to finish it. Since Triple G often stuns opponents first rather than knocking them out cold immediately, it's essential that he knows how to break through a tight guard. The aforementioned power shots and directional feints help with this, but another solid tactic is to double up punches on the same side. This of course was a favorite of Mike Tyson's as well. Two punches from the same side can make it harder to generate power for most fighters. But if a fighter can pull it off, then it can work to break their opponent's natural defensive rhythm. Here we see Triple G practicing a hook to uppercut. The hook spreads the guard to the side to make way for an uppercut up the middle. And here we see the opposite, an uppercut into a hook. In this case, the uppercut tightens the guard to clear the way for a hook to the side. This tactic can of course be used with both hands as well, and is especially useful if Triple G has an opponent against the ropes. The concept is pretty much the same, throwing hooks to spread the guard for punches down the middle, whether these are uppercuts, straights, or overhands, and throwing punches down the center line to make way for head and body hooks. Alright, time for the last concept. While Triple G is most definitely not a defensive fighter, he needs excellent defense to allow him to stay safe while constantly pressuring forward. A clever way he achieves this is by adding footwork onto his other defenses. For instance, Triple G will pivot or sidestep while evading punches with head movement, and will step away while blocking to dispel the force of the blow. This particular drill, where Triple G slips and then pivots out to uppercut, actually resulted in a spectacular knockout. But you can see these concepts executed beautifully in Triple G's fights against Canelo too, as those two fights forced Triple G to be far more defensive than normal. Gennady Triple G Golovkin is one of the most powerful and skillful strikers alive today. Offensively and defensively, Triple G's style is built around unrelenting aggression. Let's take a look at how he manages to charge forward and knock out his opponents while taking such little damage himself. Golovkin uses a stiff, heavy jab, leaning forward to build momentum and stepping into his punch. He stays deceptive by constantly changing the level of his guard, alternating his rhythm and direction. The fact his straightest, closest punch holds so much power makes his opponents overreactive to feints. Triple G will also lead with his rear hand. Like Joe Louis, Golovkin likes to step to his left and unpin his back foot, opening up his hips to swing through for more torque. This technique makes it easy for him to shift forward into southpaw and chase his competitor. Golovkin's heavy hands makes his opponent much more receptive to feints, and easier for him to drive his opponents against the ropes. Triple G is a complete master at cutting off the ring. He does so by cross-stepping his lead foot in front of his back, which keeps his stance narrow and allows him to move farther forward with each step. Moving diagonally forward rather than just sideways is the trick to taking away your opponent's escape routes. By keeping his weight forward and not opening his stance, Golovkin can smoothly transition into his jab or cross. He uses straight punches to enter into close range, keeping his glove where it is and moving his body forward to retract his punch. Once he's pressed up close, Golovkin will lean into his opponent, pushing them off balance and then attacking. While Golovkin will occasionally back up or shoulder roll, his primary method of defense is stepping forward into an oncoming attack. This has led some to believe that Golovkin is getting lucky or relying on his chin. And while it's generally true that Triple G is willing to take some shots to throw his own, the technique he's using takes an incredible amount of skill. Golovkin is using a combination of head movement and a tight guard to press forward and stay in close range. He moves his head just enough to allow his opponent's punches to slide off his arms and shoulders, deflecting their impact and setting up opportunities to pressure or counter. Golovkin prefers to fight at a very dangerous range, where his opponent can easily hit him without the need to step forward or readjust in the slightest. At the same time, fighting right in the pocket means that Golovkin can easily step in and deflect a punch before it's gained power. And while Triple G is close enough to easily smother punches, he's far away enough to move his upper body to different sides of the center line. At this range, Triple G is able to attack his opponents from the side, and throw devastating liver punches with only a slight step to the left. Golovkin uses the weight of his body to propel his fists forward, letting his hand lag behind into the last possible second. His upper body movement protects his head by taking it offline, and builds momentum for his strike. The curving loadup gives the added benefit of making Triple G's punches highly unpredictable, with many changing from angular to linear, or corkscrewing at the last second. All of these techniques add up to Golovkin being one of the most powerful and gutsiest fighters out there. His domination will undoubtedly continue, provided he doesn't encounter a powerful counterpuncher who likes to throw to the body. Then it may be a toss-up. Gennady Triple G Golovkin vs Canelo Alvarez was one of the best fights in recent memory. It was clear from the time that the fight was announced that these two men were the perfect stylistic matchup for each other. Triple G is a high-volume pressure fighter who likes to corner his opponents and finish them off against the ropes. In contrast, Canelo relies on unorthodox counterpunches that come from odd angles. The question going into the fight was if Canelo could effectively counter Triple G's aggressive style. Triple G's main tools to apply pressure and corner his opponent are a stiff, heavy jab, a shifting right hand, and pushing his opponent back at close range. Canelo had an immediate answer to Triple G's shifting cross, throwing a powerful uppercut when Triple G leaned offline. Most of these did not connect, but they did stop Golovkin's momentum, taking pressure off Canelo and allowing him to follow up with more punches. Canelo also set up counters to Triple G's body by sidestepping out of the way. When Golovkin tried to press close to Canelo to push him back, he hit a short but powerful uppercut. While some of his best weapons were not working, Triple G's jab was still landing effectively. Even so, Canelo was able to stand his ground in the center of the ring, using head movement and quick counters to the body. With Golovkin's most threatening punches minimized, Canelo was able to stake his claim in the center of the ring. Triple G clearly respected Canelo's right hand, backing up nearly every time he threw it. For the first 3 rounds, it looked like Canelo had Triple G figured out. But then, Golovkin adjusted. Triple G had realized how overreactive Canelo was to his cross. He began to mix it up with feints and rear uppercuts. When Triple G mixed these in with his off-rhythm jabs, it became very hard for Canelo to predict what was coming next. In this way, Triple G was able to slowly and methodically build pressure on Canelo and begin to control the ring. Here in the 4th, Golovkin feints a cross, and Canelo responds with a jab. Triple G darts out and back to the same position. He moves his head offline, and then lands a jab on Canelo's guard, who steps back this time. Golovkin feints another cross, prompting Canelo to raise his guard, and Triple G splits it with his jab. Canelo takes a few steps forward now, trying to reclaim lost ground, and shoots his own jab. But Triple G lands a counter cross. Canelo's now lost more ground, but tries to move forward again with the jab. Triple G pulls, and this time he's able to sell his cross by simply leaning forward and twisting. Canelo backs up, raises his guard and sinks down, but Triple G times him and lands a jab. Canelo throws a counter right, but Triple G slips, jabs, and feints across again. This was a painstaking process fought over inches, but over the next few rounds, Triple G began to move Canelo back towards the ropes more and more often. But Canelo often prefers his backup against the ropes, throwing powerful counters or suddenly charging forwards. Fortunately for Golovkin, he didn't fall for this trick. Triple G usually throws loaded, curving blows when he gets an opponent against the ropes. But this time, he chose to stay at range and pick Canelo apart with straight, low-risk punches. By staying at range and feinting, Triple G was able to land several well-placed shots, stepping in to pick at Canelo, and then quickly stepping out of harm's way. By the 6th round, the fight was still very back and forth. Here we see Triple G and Canelo both catch each other's jabs, and Canelo tries to counter with a hard right. But Triple G slips the punch and throws his own cross. He stalks Canelo to the ropes. At this point, Canelo is so responsive to Golovkin's right hand that he reacts every time Triple G simply leans in. Triple G hits him with a body hook cross combination, jabs out to a safe range, and then hits him with another 1-2. Golovkin tries to keep the pressure on, but Canelo surprises him and rushes out, backing him to the center of the ring, and then connecting with a powerful uppercut body hook combination. This same kind of scenario would play out over the next several rounds. But more and more, Canelo began to back up to the corners, and then pivot and pull away from Triple G's cross. While this technique was impressive, it usually left him in a position where he was unable to counter himself. In the 8th, Triple G must have felt that Canelo was weakening. He became comfortable pressing forward again. He had mixed success, eating a devastating uppercut from Canelo through the space in his guard. In the 9th, Triple G lowered and tightened his guard and pushed forward even harder. He was finally able to land his signature curving punches from close range. But then, once again, Triple G got careless. and took an incredible right hand after pushing Canelo back to the corner. At this point, both fighters had taken shots that would put most men in the hospital and simply shrugged it off. Undisturbed by each other's power, the next 3 rounds would be a total war. Triple G upped the pressure even more in the 10th. Although he took a number of body shots as he pressed forward, he was able to bully Canelo through most of the round. In the 11th, Canelo got aggressive, and we got to see some amazing exchanges like this one. Triple G and Alvarez both jab. Canelo catches Golovkin's hand on his guard, and Golovkin slips to the inside and throws a powerful cross. Canelo just manages to slip it, and then charges forward. Golovkin weaves away, and the exchange ends with no clear winner. In this exchange, Canelo pulls away from Golovkin's right, and counters with a right of his own. Triple G ducks under it, and throws a long hook that Canelo just slips. Alvarez throws a looping jab, and Triple G follows it back to smother Canelo. But Canelo controls Golovkin's lead hand and head, and shoots a short, straight right into Golovkin's chin. In the 12th, both Canelo and Triple G put it all on the line. Canelo attacked with everything he had, and Triple G took the shots and still pressed forward relentlessly. They battled it out until the final bell. While the fight was close, with both fighters landing a near equal amount of power shots, Triple G landed far more punches overall and controlled the pace of the fight. While there is a legitimate argument for a draw, I personally feel that Triple G won a majority of the rounds. But as I said, it was a very close fight, one deserving of a rematch. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.